Hello, and welcome to another edition of Museum Moments. My name is Molly Dubin, and I am the curator with the Jewish Museum. It's great to have you here with us again. So, in kind of keeping with the exploration that we've been doing through our Jewish Museum Passport series and also our Museum Moment coming up on Thursday, we are going to be diving into the diaspora a little bit, if you will. And today we are going to be taking just a small peek at the Jews of Cochin in India. So this is a big topic. So we are really just going to be able to kind of touch on some of the high points of this, what is thought to be millennial long existence of Jews in India, particularly in the southern tip. So let us go to the PowerPoint that I've put together. I'm just going to share my screen and get to our application window. And we are going to start our slideshow from the beginning. So, the Jews of Cochin. So as I mentioned, there's been a Jewish presence in India dating back, many think to, or some have cited, I should say, to the time of King Solomon. And the destruction, actually prior to that, with the destruction of the first temple, some connect it to the destruction of the second temple, the time of King Solomon. And that is really kind of a circa 1970 to 1931 BC. But there are some discrepancies about that as far as the actual written documentation of Jewish presence in India that really doesn't come until about the 12th century. So we are going to start, just to give you a little bit of a geographical cue in here. So here we have a map of India, and you can see that at the southern tip is Cochin, and Kochi is actually, they're interchangeable as names, but you can see where it is in terms of the continent. The importance of its location being that it's a port city. It was a port city, still is. It's just not noted as it used to be in antiquity. And you can see also its proximity to the surrounding countries of Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. So, as I said, there are some historians that date the arrival of Jewish individuals or pilgrimage people, travelers, as they have been referred to that right after the period of the destruction of the Second Temple. And this is actually an illustration of Jews arriving at the port city there of Cochin, being welcomed by a group of Hindu individuals. And the significance of kind of the arrival here, the connection, has also to do with the Jewish longtime involvement with the trade industry there, and we'll talk about that a little bit. As I said, a little bit of, there's a lot of different writings about the Jews of Cochin and its history. One of the individuals that comes to mind, and this actually postdates kind of, it predates what we're going to be talking about with the expulsion connection here. But this is an individual by the name of Joseph Rabin. And this individual is significant because he was a Jewish trader, and here he is seen accepting these copper plates that date to 1000 CE. The significance here is that we know that the Jewish community established a very nice collegial working relationship with the Indian rulers in the territory. And in fact, they received special privilege in some instances. And this is really documented through this set of copper plates, which still exists in the synagogue Paradise, which is the oldest still functioning synagogue in the area. And among the things that are said to be inscribed, and here is the inscription, and I'm sure you're all translating that with ease, just as I am. But what it is said to include here is that the Jewish individuals, the Jewish community, were going to have certain privileges, certain economic trade privileges, also that they would be exempt from paying taxes. So there certainly was a privilege that existed there. Now, the first Jews that arrived were said to be known as the Mobara. And there was a second, or the Cochinim, I should say, is another term. The latter Jews that came, and these are supposed to have been a group that arrived as a result of the expulsion in the Iberian Peninsula. So 1492, we know, of course, about the Spanish Inquisition. We know that Jewish individuals are expelled from Spain, from Portugal, from a small southern part of France, from Andorra, from Gibraltar. And it is said that a large number of Jewish individuals wound up arriving in Cochin. Now, these latter arriving individuals are, the name coincides with the synagogue I just mentioned, the Paradise, and they were really referred to as the foreigner Jews or the white Jews because of having a more Anglo-Saxon provenance geographically. So they did get along, but there is documentation that basically states that the groups maintained separate ethnicities, separate traditional practices. This is an inscription, and I wanted to show this before showing the next image of the synagogue that is still functioning. This is a placard that is supposed to, above that is a slab that was supposed to have come from the synagogue in Cochin that was built in 1344. And that really kind of, again, coincides with the thought of this, much documentation coming around the 11th, 12th centuries as far as the Jewish presence in terms of written documentation. So the Paradise Synagogue, which is really, I have not been there, but I've seen numerous images. As you can tell here, it is just extraordinarily ornate, beautiful, very reflective of the Indian culture, from the decorative tile work to the coloring to the blown glass that is in the chandeliers that is hanging. It is very much reflective of the geographical aesthetic. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the only still functioning synagogue. There were, at one point, 8 remaining synagogues from the original, the 8 that remained into the 20th century. Some of those had been destroyed. Obviously, others of those had been converted or sold, being used as other things. 2, in fact, have been revamped, refurbished, and are now being used as museums. So still very much this want to preserve the history of the Jewish presence, the Jewish culture, the Jewish contribution, which again comes largely, as I mentioned earlier, with that trade. And that also gets into, again, this is kind of going backwards in time, but starting to connect trade with mainland China, which is dates back to the 9th century, but very strong presence of trade, being able to sustain an economic viability and presence, and really a certain equilibrium in terms of the surrounding groups that were living there. So if tourists go to this area now, and of course there are many tours to Jewish India that you can be a part of, much like there are tours to other Jewish places of the diaspora. This area is referred to actually as Jewtown, and the area refers to this narrow stretch between Matanchari Palace and Paradise Synagogue. And it's very well known for its rows and rows of antique stores. And not only can you find, of course, contemporary artifacts or contemporary pieces that refer to Indian culture, you can also find artifacts reminiscent of the once thriving Jewish culture there. There's another sign pointing to the Jewish cemetery and the Jewtown Road. Now, I will say that the Jews of Cochin, the Malbara, are thought to be the oldest Jews in India. We do know that there are 3 to 4 distinct areas where Jewish settlers kind of established themselves. Cochin, probably the best known, and as I said, the oldest. As far as what remains, it's largely in memory and documentation. Here we have a couple of tourists walking through some of the areas in Jewtown, and certainly, as I said, there are groups that go and point out the many historical sites, whether these are, old synagogues or Jewishly connected buildings that have been converted but are still have some type of visual presence that you can tell the historical Jewish connection there. And talking again about that importance of the trade and the trade route and that Jewish individuals played there. So we know that at one point this was an incredibly thriving Jewish community with possibly upwards of 10,000 Jews. Today it is said, and again, there are discrepancy in record there, but that there are between 60 and 25 practicing Jews remaining in the area. What we do know is that there's a great pride in the history and also a great interest in reconnecting with that history. So I wanted to end us on a picture showing a contemporary image of some Jewish Cochin individuals in the synagogue there and partaking of a learning experience. And from what I have read, there are more and more of the younger generations looking to really learn about the Jewish history in the area, and if it's not something that's been passed down to them directly or has skipped several generations, to learn about that history and to reconnect with their Jewish heritage and Jewish roots. So again, as I said, just a small dive into the very interesting history of the Jews of India, and particularly the Jews of Cochin. So with that, I'm going to end our museum moment. I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Robin Cohn, our sponsor, and we encourage you to tune in for upcoming museum moments or programs, and to either see you at the museum or on the screen soon. Thanks and have a great day.